All right, so if you're in the FCT or you have your ears close to the ground and you've been hearing some information, well, the man responsible in charge of security there is in the studios to shed some light and perhaps answer your questions. Marpa?
Indeed, Chamberlain. I'm sure that citizens, residents of the FCT will certainly have a lot of questions to pose to Mr. Balasiroma this morning. He is the Commissioner of Police here in the Federal Capital Territory. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good morning. I'm answering on behalf of the viewers this morning. You have seen in recent times that the FCT has now been in the news in terms of security, not for positives, sadly, but for what the Minister of Police Affairs says is an embarrassing incident, increasingly embarrassing incident of kidnapping, which is becoming rife in the Federal Capital Territory. I think in the last couple of days or so, in the last 1-2 weeks, there have been at least 4 incidences of that being reported in the Federal Capital Territory. And looking at this paper this morning, which is just focused on Abuja, the Abuja Inquirer says just on at the bottom here, fear envelopes FCT as kidnappers have free reign. How is this happening in the FCT?
Well, I think security in FCT has been relatively stable. However, there is this emerging crime of kidnapping. In the past, we experienced it sparingly, and we've been able to contain the situation. Unfortunately, a few days ago, around Peggy, we had this case of kidnap where quite a number of people were abducted, and it included an officer of the civil defense. We've been able to react, and so far, of all the persons that are abducted, 1 person still remaining, while others have been released. All security agencies within FCT are really concerned with this, and so they've developed a synergy between us. And in fact, as I'm talking to you now, we're conducting some operations within that particular terrain to ensure that we clear it of these hoodlums. You're quite aware that Kuje area is surrounded by a range of mountains that extends up to Abaji. The terrain is really a difficult one, a conducive one for men of the underworld. But that notwithstanding, we've been able to synergize with other security agencies, and we are on top of the situation, and we've increased our visibility, increased patrols, identified black spots there within those range of mountains are being attacked to ensure that we pick up these criminal elements and deal with them accordingly. That will assist us restore sanity. As I said earlier on, this is an emerging crime within FCT, and we'll put all hands on deck to ensure that we curb it, we don't allow it have a stay here.
Why are we reacting to it? Because the spate of kidnapping around the country should have been such that, I mean, by now we would know that it would certainly get to the Federal Capital Territory. If Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, for instance, has been a source of concern, it's only a matter of time before it was going to get into the Federal Capital Territory. And also, you say that there is a strategy already which we are reacting to. You know, we're just coming up with this. Shouldn't we have come up with this before this threat eventually emerged?
No, I think you got me wrong. There was a strategy. If you notice what happens along the Kaduna, Abuja, and other parts of the country, it's mostly on the highways. So far, we've been able to secure our own parts of the highways. And what has emerged now is something that we did not foresee. Difficult terrain right in the thick of the bushes. Now, you have to re-strategize. That is why we say we always rejig and re-strategize to ensure that emerging trends are curbed. You see, crime is dynamic. Immediately you are able to nip in the bud the activities of criminals. They devise other means of perpetrating their evil. It is now left for us to also try to get ahead of them and bust whatever strategies they come up with.
Okay. So far, what successes have we been able to record? Because if you talk about the difficult terrain of a place like Kuje, right here within the federal, I mean, let's say in the heart of the Federal Capital Territory, in Asokoro here, somebody was kidnapped. We have been hearing of will I say, one chance kidnappings as well and robberies. There have been pockets of incidences here and there.
I sometimes it may be premature to come out with statements on cases that have been that are under investigation. But be that as it may, since you've asked me, I'll tell you. Like the case of Asokoro, there has been an arrest. And which we hope it will lead us to further arrest. And that is why we've not made any statements as regards to that. Even as of yesterday, we were able to pick up almost 3 people that kidnapped some children around Jabi. We do not want to come out and say, this is it for now. At least we want investigations to reach a certain stage. And then we come out and let members of the public into what we've done.
For those who are currently apprehensive about the state of security in the Federal Capital Territory, what do you have to say to them?
I want to reassure members of the public within FCT that the police and other security agencies are on top of the situation. We, on part of the police, we're increasing visibility, ensuring that there are more patrols, both foot and vehicular, covered and overt. Black spots are being properly manned. There's joint raids of black spots to ensure that we rid the city of criminals.
Are you in collaboration with authorities of the Federal Capital Territory in terms of trying to light up dark spots and also in terms of monitoring your men to ensure that they're actually carrying out what it is that they've set out to do while they're on the roads?
Well, we are collaborating with the authorities of the FCT by pointing out things that we think will aid our activities as security men, including lighting up some of these places. And you will see that lighting up within the city has at least improved. There are some bushy areas that we think criminals hibernating, and we've been able to be in contact with them. We've been able to clear these things. In terms of monitoring, yes, I have a special monitoring unit that monitors the activities of policemen. We have also a complaint response unit within the office of the Police Public Relations Officer that complaints of persons aggrieved by police action are usually received and addressed.
Okay. Do you want to share them again? I mean, assuming anyone has any complaint or has noticed anything within the Federal Capital Territory which they think could be of a security concern and they would like to bring to your attention, would you like to share how they can reach the Nigeria Police?
Well, we deliberately, because in order to shield the identity of the persons giving us information, because we realize that people don't want to divulge their identity for fear of reprisals, we specifically chose not even to use the internet, but we also chose to give an option where you can just go, drop your message or whatever you want to say in a box, and then move ahead. No trace to you. We located such boxes in 3 locations. One is Area 1 roundabout. We have one in the Federal Secretariat. We have one in Bega roundabout.
Area 1 roundabout, yes.
Yeah. Bega roundabout.
Bega roundabout.
Federal Secretariat, Central Area.
Okay, so there are just 3 police boxes around the Federal Capital Territory for you to drop your complaints.
And that is one of
How often are these boxes checked?
That is one of the options we have. There's the electronic option I told you.
Okay.
We have our control room numbers where emergency numbers are that you can call, drop your message, and we'll receive it. We make it as a point of duty to check these boxes that I've told you almost on a regular basis, maybe on a daily basis, to ensure we pick up complaints from members of the public and address them.
Okay. the control room numbers? I don't imagine, because I imagine that they will be long,
They
11
long.
digits numbers.
Exactly.
But if you leave them with us, perhaps we'll be able to share them, in the course of the program.
I'll leave a copy with you.
Okay, that would be great. But is there any way, are you working on something? Because one would think that by now, the Federal Capital Territory should be exemplary of what we hope that our Nigeria Police Force will eventually become. Right here, yes, you oversee the Federal Capital Territory, but you also seem to share base with the Inspector General of Police. And as such, one would think that if there's anything going to be implemented from the top, from the IG's office, the Federal Capital Territory should feel it first. If you're talking about community policing, and the federal government has been making a lot of talk around that particular area, one of the places where we would have thought we will be seeing an example of just what they're talking about will be here. How do you think, if community policing is going to be implemented, how will it be implemented here in the Federal Capital Territory?
Well, we've already started the process of implementation of a community policing project within the FCT. We are doing this in concert with the Nigerian Policing Project. We've gotten arranged town hall meetings in all the 6 area councils meetings, which are area council areas within the FCT, which I personally attended. Were able to interact with members of the public. And let me tell you, this interaction...
The area councils are pretty big. At least I know that the part called I'm trying to remember now. I remember looking through the FCT, and I know it's mapped into 6.
My thing is that I thought you allowed me finish. Yes, they are pretty big. Yes.
So
I have been to the area council.
In each of the
I went to
areas.
6, the 6 area councils. And now I have area commanders and I have deputy DPOs that are on the ground there. So it's cascading down, right? I can't be going from one village to another, right? But my agents are there. They also go to these places and we're able to sensitize the people to come on board. Let me tell you of a success story. Within Abaji itself, a few months ago, we recorded 1 or 2 incidences of kidnapping there. I went to Abaji, spoke to members of the public there, and enlightened them as to the need and importance of collaborating with the police. The result was very positive. We were able to pick up residents within that particular location that were in fact the informants to this kind of hoodlums. And since we did that, Abaji town itself has become quiet. There are a few other locations that some other things might have happened that are separate from that. We've been able to get in touch with them, collaborated with them, and we've been able to solve security issues there.
So what exactly is the model? Are you just looking to go and have meetings with them, or precisely how is this supposed to work?
Well, as the name connotes, we are talking about community policing. We're talking about communities collaborating with the police to ensure effective security within their environs. And therefore, at the very base of it is, this interaction is very, very necessary, because that is where you get the information, that is where you get the necessary cooperation. So you can't do without it.
Yes.
Yeah?
So, how is it going to work?
It's already working, because we're already getting feedback. There is already collaboration between members of the public and the police. And the impact is already being felt.
Well, I live here in the Federal Capital Territory.
Yep.
If you ask me about community police, I dare say, or community policing, I dare say that I don't know anything about it. I haven't seen it work. Well, I live in a community, I imagine, but I haven't quite seen that there has been any attempt. For instance, I would think that we'll have police numbers, which I know you want to share with us right now. But I would have thought that by now we would have been seeing posters and things of the sort about community policing to create an awareness, aside the one-on-one meetings that you do with maybe community leaders and community meetings, and that there will be a little more awareness in this regard.
Well, posters, billboards have been distributed, and have been distributed.
Where?
If you go to the markets, a few of the markets like Garki markets have already established a billboard there now.
Okay.
And this was done just about last week. We've chosen some strategic locations within FCT. Billboards will be going to be established there. Our emergency numbers are going to be there. We've printed pamphlets just as this, as I have here, and distributed within the FCT of our emergency numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I understand that my colleagues in Lagos have a question or two for you. So we'll go to Lagos. Chamberlain?
Well, yes, Commissioner, could you tell us, just one question, even though it looks like 1.5 or 2. Is the CCTV in FCT working? Are you making use of it? What kind of results do you get with the CCTV?
Well, we are bringing in a lot of technology to now assist us in the course of policing within FCT. The major project of the CCTV that you know, that has not actually been working, but of recent, the Inspector General of Police has been able to acquire some patrol vehicles and install cameras in specific locations which really assist us in curbing crime within the FCT. The Minister of the FCT too has been able to, there is a pilot program that is being run. The central business district area specifically is covered by CCTV, and that also assists us in effectively policing the FCT.
Right. So one thing I'd like to get clarification on. I think it was about this time last week that reports came out that about 9 people were kidnapped. I think it was around Peggy community by men said to be in military, uniform. And, a few days after we heard that some of them had regained their freedom, there was controversy about, whether or not ransom was paid. But I'd like to ask you, is there an update on that story? What is new about that?
Now, what is new about that is that we're synergizing between agencies, and we are conducting operations within that particular location. And as soon as we conclude the operations being conducted, we'll let you in. So far, we are aware there's still one person in custody, and as soon as we rescue him, we'll let you know that.
You mentioned something earlier that's a little worrisome to me. You said that there are some security challenges that you didn't anticipate in Abuja. That was a little worrisome. Some would say, if you didn't see it coming, how can we feel safe?
No, I didn't say I didn't see it coming. I said crime is dynamic. We anticipated that spate of kidnappings that are happening in other parts of the country may also come into Abuja. We had our plans. The trend in other parts of the country is highways are blocked, people are picked and taken to wherever they're being hidden. We, on our own part, ensure that our highways are secure, in order to avoid what is happening in other parts of the country. However, having seen that we've secured these parts, hoodlums now chose to maybe operate in difficult terrains. And therefore, that is why I said, we thought it will follow the same pattern that it's following in other parts of the country, but it's now taking a different dimension. We are rejigging our strategies to ensure that we contain that situation.
That is a little scary, Commissioner, because, for instance, you said you have gone to a number of communities and you are kickstarting your own community policing and all of that. What kind of cooperation, what kind of support, what kind of information, or how do you get information from the various communities you have visited to improve the security in the FCT and so that the people can feel much safer?
I don't think it's scary. My explanation has been very lucid. I told you that the era of community policing is what we are in. We are collaborating with members of the public to ensure that we provide adequate security. And I told you that I'll be moving out to communities, sensitizing them, bringing them on board, and that this has actually been yielding results. I even cited an example with Abaji, which I said there was an incident, we moved there, we sensitized the community, and were able to achieve results as a result of that visit paid and collaboration received from members of the public there.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was just trying to read a tweet from somebody who's watching now. I think he's saying I should ask our dear Commissioner of Police of the FCT why stop and identify yourself is not an option in Abuja, as most of these kidnappers walk around in the day and come back to hit at night. And they say the influx is getting out of hand. This is from Anifowoshe Treasure. They are thinking that, people should be asked to identify themselves here in the Federal Capital Territory. What do they do and what their businesses are? When your men patrol, what precisely are they looking out for?
Well, they're looking out for criminality. Mm-hmm. And that is where they conduct stop and search. They suspect you of, for any reason, they stop you, they search you, and if there is nothing incriminating on you, they let you go. Okay.
I think that you already made this point about the issue of light in the Federal Capital Territory. This is from Uche Ijiaku, who says, good morning. Please inform the CP Abuja that his office should liaise with FCDA on the need to light up the city. There are too many dark spots. This is the first step, excuse me, in fighting insecurity in the FCT. Now, Honorable Mr. Commissioner, you have talked about these boxes that you have put up in certain parts of the Federal Capital Territory. You've also given us numbers to call. Now, I'm imagining that the challenges in the rural area, which is where you say that you seem to be having a lot more challenges now. You mentioned, is it Awaji or Kuje? Is it Kuje, which has a mountainous area? What method are you deploying in that particular area that is different? Yes, the numbers there are now on for our viewers to look at it. These are the FCT police hotlines as given to me by the Commissioner of Police. They're there. You can take a picture of it and store it on your phone. You can write them out. While we believe that the FCT Commissioner will work on getting shorter numbers for us so that we can be modern. I want to believe that Lagos, is already showing the light in that particular direction. But coming to what I was talking about in terms of the different challenges that different areas of the Federal Capital Territory will be facing, AMAC might respond to a different approach, different from, say, Abaji or Kuje, where you have quite a number of villages as well. What strategy are you deploying in those areas to deal with some of the challenges that you're facing there?
I think maybe I'll first of all address the issue of modernizing
the numbers.
Our numbers. You could also get across to us through the FCT call center 122.
Okay, yeah. 122. So 122 will also work as well.
Yeah,
they will route it to you.
They route the calls to us.
Okay.
Now in the rural areas where maybe they don't have access to our boxes, as you say, we're exploring the traditional institution there. They have a chain where they communicate right down to the villages and hamlets. So the traditional institution is key in that. We also have, these days we have tribal groups, social groups, so on and so forth within the same localities. These are groups that we've also identified and are also reaching out to. By and large, we monitor situations within these areas using these groups. And believe you me, information that has been coming from these groups, it's really, really useful because almost each and every one of them has our control room numbers, and in fact, they have my personal number. So
interesting.
I get information that I require at the appropriate time.
Mr. Balachiroma, we wish you well because we know that if you succeed, the FCT is kept safe and we also feel safe. And so we want to believe that you'll continue to keep your lines open so that if you have any questions, we will be able to get them answered. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning. Mr. Balachiroma is the police commissioner here in the Federal Capital Territory. Sunrise Elite continues in the moment. Please stay with us.